Millionaire CEO needed a date for a wedding. He never thought he'd end up falling for her. Nathan Steele was used to everything in life going his way. As the youngest millionaire in New York's cutthroat real estate scene, he wore his success with the same ease he wore his tailored suits. Deals, businesses, quick decisions, he controlled them all. What he didn't control, however, was his personal life, and it was a ticking time bomb that had just gone off. His older brother's wedding was a few days away, and the Steele family, renowned for their social prominence, was buzzing with excitement. Their question for Nathan: "Are you bringing anyone?" A harmless inquiry for most. But for Nathan, single, wealthy, and all too aware of how meddling his family could be, it was a minefield. He could practically hear his mother's voice. "Oh, Nathan, how is it that you can close $1 million deal but can't find a proper date?" So he had to devise a scheme, something quick, simple, and transactional. I'll hire a date for the wedding, keep my family off my back, and be done with this matter by Monday. No fuss, no emotional entanglements, and definitely no heartbreak. It was purely business. Bright and early, Nathan stopped at a tiny coffee shop in downtown Manhattan. Its unassuming sign and cramped seating made it the last place a millionaire would frequent. Yet, Nathan had been coming here for a month. He told himself it was because the espresso was the best in the city. But truth be told, he was fascinated by the barista who worked behind the counter. Her name was Emily Harper. There was something about Emily, her unforced smile, her determined gaze, that made him linger at the counter for longer than necessary. Emily was no star-struck admirer. In fact, she seemed thoroughly unimpressed by his suits, cars, and watch that cost more than most people's rent. She treated him just like any other customer, politely, briefly, and that was precisely why she stood out. She seemed immune to his wealth. Nathan liked that and hated it at the same time. She was exactly the sort of person who wouldn't feed his family's gossip, someone real. So on a fateful Tuesday, rather than departing with his latte, Nathan leaned against the countertop, eyes fixed on Emily, and made her an unexpected offer. "I'll pay you $5,000 if you come as my date to my brother's wedding." Emily nearly dropped the cup she was handing to another customer. $5,000? To pretend to be a wedding date? At first, she was furious, assuming he thought her life could be bought so easily. Then the shock wore off, and the practicality of having her credit card bill covered, her rent secured, and maybe even some extra to fix that leaky faucet in her apartment was all too tempting. Still, she bristled. She might be short on cash, but she wasn't for sale. "I'm not interested," she said, voice tight. "You can find some agency that offers pretend girlfriend services." Nathan, who'd never heard no come so easily, felt a stirring of unexpected respect. But he couldn't let it go. He needed a date, and it had to be someone who wouldn't gush over his money or his family name. "Just think it over," he said in a last smooth attempt. "Offers open until Friday." And with that, he left, leaving Emily feeling jittery and a little curious. All week, Emily fought an internal battle. She wanted to say no. Being a fake date for a wealthy man's wedding felt like signing up for trouble. But then she'd look at her mounting bills, or at the ceiling that dripped during storms, and the memory of that $5,000 check she could have made her waver. By Thursday night, she realized how drastically that cash could change her life. It was only one evening, right? And it wasn't as if she had illusions about Nathan Steele. He was a flirt, obviously wealthy, and had the sort of confidence that practically hung in the air around him. But as she reread the last month's overdue utility notice, her hesitation crumbled. On Friday evening, a sleek black sedan pulled up outside Emily's modest apartment building. She peered from behind her curtain, heart pounding. Nathan stepped out, dressed in a perfectly tailored navy suit, his hair styled with effortless precision. He exuded a brand of sophistication that felt worlds away from her cramped studio. Emily forced herself to take a breath, smoothing the borrowed black dress she wore. She wouldn't let him see how overwhelmed she felt. The moment she opened her door, Nathan gave a small grin, relieved she hadn't changed her mind, and offered his arm. "You look stunning," he said, quiet sincerity replacing his typical cocky tone. "Thanks," Emily replied, clearing her throat. "You don't look half bad yourself." During the ride, they kept conversation light, but an underlying tension thrummed. As the car neared an extravagant estate outside the city, Emily wondered if she'd stepped into someone else's life. Chandeliers glittered in the massive foyer, guests in designer gowns mingled near a fountain, and every detail spelled out million-dollar taste. Nathan leaned in, a gentle hand at the small of her back. "Let's do this. Just pretend you love me for a few hours, okay?" She forced a smile. "I'll try. Don't get used to it." Walking into the reception, Emily was introduced to the powerful Steele family. Nathan's mother, Catherine, received her kindly but with unmistakable curiosity. "Who is this woman on my son's arm?" Meanwhile, older relatives exchanged intrigued whispers, and Emily felt each prickle of attention like a spotlight shining on her every flaw. Yet, surprisingly, she found some family members disarmingly welcoming. Daniel Steele, Nathan's older brother, and the groom greeted her with an amiable wink. "I heard my brother's date was a real person, not a tabloid model," he joked good-naturedly. "Thanks for proving him capable of normal human connection." Emily actually laughed at that. Daniel was friendly, calm, and possessed none of the cynicism she'd braced herself for. She began to relax until she showed up. Vanessa, a gorgeous woman with diamond-studded jewelry and a polished manner, glided over. Emily instantly sensed the chill in Vanessa's gaze. She placed a hand on Nathan's shoulder like she owned it. "Nathan," Vanessa purred, "I'm surprised to see you here with someone. Introduce me?" The tension crackled. Emily felt pinned by Vanessa's assessing stare. Meanwhile, Nathan stiffened. An ex-fling? An old family friend? Emily wasn't sure, but she could see Vanessa had some claim over him in her mind. "This is Emily," Nathan said, pulling Emily close. "My date." Vanessa's eyebrow arched, and Emily saw the faintest smirk. She didn't stay for small talk. With a final glare, she whisked off to mingle, leaving Emily feeling defensive. The swirl of questions hammered her brain. Was this wedding date hire a scheme to deal with ex-drama? Despite that hiccup, the evening improved. Nathan guided Emily through more introductions, shielding her from snide remarks with surprising gentleness. When the music changed to a slow ballad, thanks to the mother of the groom's request, he whisked Emily onto the dance floor. "I'm sorry if you feel like a fish out of water," he said softly. His voice somehow steadied her. "I didn't mean for it to be overwhelming." Emily's heart pounded. She had no reason to trust that sincerity, especially from a man who'd basically hired her for the night, but it didn't feel rehearsed. "Honestly, it's a lot," she admitted, "but I'm okay." They swayed together, the bustle of wedding guests fading. For a moment she found herself leaning into him, drawn by something unexpected, a sense of safety in a place where she never expected to find it. After the dance, the couple stepped outside for fresh air. The moonlit garden was a reprieve from the crowd. But just as Emily allowed herself a breath, Vanessa appeared again, stepping out of the shadows like a determined antagonist from a viral drama. "Look, Emily," Vanessa said, her voice clipped. "I know you're just here for a paycheck, so let's not pretend otherwise. Nathan isn't the type to settle down, especially not with someone who can't even afford a seat at this wedding." Emily's cheeks flamed. Her first instinct was to lash out, but she refused to feed Vanessa's cruelty. Instead, she inhaled, trying to stand tall. "You don't know me, and you certainly don't know what Nathan wants." Vanessa let out a condescending laugh. "I know a Steele man better than you ever could, and I've heard rumors. Let me guess, he paid you to be here? Don't worry, everyone can see it." The jab landed. Emily felt her composure wobble, but before she could respond, Nathan strode in, jaw tight. "Vanessa, that's enough," he snapped. "If you have a problem, it's with me. Emily is my guest, my date." Vanessa stared, shock flickering in her eyes at his firm defense. Then, with a swirl of her expensive gown, she stalked off in a huff. Emily exhaled, heart racing with humiliation, relief, and a swirl of other emotions she couldn't place. "I'm so sorry," Nathan whispered, turning to Emily. "She had no right?" "It's fine," Emily cut in, forcing a casual shrug. "I'm getting paid to be your date, right? Let's not pretend otherwise." Nathan flinched at her words. He gently took her hand, eyes searching hers. "Yes, I asked you here for one reason, but it's not the same anymore. I didn't foresee how I'd feel." Emily heard the strain in his voice. Part of her wanted to believe him. Part of her needed to keep a wall up, so she simply nodded, uncertain whether this was a fleeting moment of sincerity or the start of something deeper. By the evening's close, Emily found herself in Nathan's car, silent. She stared at the rolling lights of the city, replaying everything. Something had shifted between them. The easy banter was replaced by a tension laced with possibility. Once they reached her building, Nathan walked her up to the door. A swirl of confusion and electricity danced between them. In a seemingly impulsive act, Nathan tucked a strand of hair behind Emily's ear. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You saved me from an entire night of prying relatives, and from my own self, probably." "We had a deal," Emily answered, trying to sound breezy. "Now we're even." Nathan hesitated, his next words coming out like a confession. "I don't want it to end here." But Emily, flustered and overwhelmed, simply gave him a small smile. "Good night, Nathan." She slipped into her apartment, heart pounding so hard she thought her neighbors could hear. Days turned into a week. Emily tried telling herself the wedding fiasco was behind her. She'd used the $5,000 to clear some debts and fix that leaky faucet, but she couldn't deny she'd welcomed the electric thrill of the wedding night. The dancing, Nathan's genuine concern, the way he'd looked at her. Then came a text from Nathan. "Can we talk? Let me explain something." Against her better judgment, she agreed to meet him at a small cafe, somewhere she chose this time. When he arrived, gone was the suave posture. He looked almost nervous. "I owe you the truth," he said, resting his elbows on the table. "I've spent my life focusing on business, real estate deals, expansions, nothing but profit. Then my brother's wedding forced me to face how alone I was. I'd planned to hire someone from an agency, but the moment I saw you, I knew it had to be you." Emily arched an eyebrow. "Why?" Nathan laughed wryly, looking at her with an earnestness that made her chest tighten. "Because you're different, genuine. You never once catered to my ego or my wealth. I respected that. And now, I want to see if we can be something more than a contract." Emily felt her guard slipping. She recalled how he defended her against Vanessa, the warmth in his eyes when she'd had enough of the party. Was it just him feeling guilty? Or did he actually want a real relationship? "Nathan, I don't do half measures," Emily finally said, her eyes meeting his. "If we try this, it's real or it's nothing." "It's real," he promised, voice trembling with sincerity. Rumors began circulating. Some claimed Emily was a gold digger, others insisted Nathan was just toying with her. Emily heard whispers about a tabloid article in progress. Many took Vanessa's side. After all, she had old ties to the Steele family's circle. One day, Vanessa cornered Emily outside the coffee shop, brandishing a smirk. "You think he wants you for anything more than a rebound? You're naive. Once the novelty wears off, you'll be gone, and I'll still be around." Emily's eyes stung, but she refused to show weakness. "If that's what you believe, fine, but I think I know Nathan better than you do." Inside, she was rattled. She confronted Nathan about the rumors and Vanessa's confrontation. He scowled, frustration coloring his features. "Vanessa is just stirring up trouble. Listen to me. I want you. No rumor's going to change that. Unless you don't trust me?" Emily searched his face, then let out a breath. "I do trust you. I just don't want to be anyone's puppet in some upper-class war." Nathan gently cradled her face in his hands. "You're no puppet. You're my partner, and I'm all in." Weeks passed, and the fiasco over the rumor died down, overshadowed by bigger events in the city. Emily and Nathan dated, for real. At first quietly, but then openly, strolling Central Park, him surprising her with small gestures, and her making him see that not every problem required money to fix. Their bond deepened into mutual respect, laughter, and eventually love. One crisp evening, Nathan took Emily to the rooftop restaurant he'd first teased her about. Instead of a typically showy dinner, he arranged a simple but cozy setup with fairy lights and her favorite meal. As they finished dessert, her heart hammered. Something in his demeanor was shifting. "Emily," he said softly, taking her hand. "I once paid you to be my date, which might be the dumbest thing I've ever done. But it brought me the smartest choice of my life, loving you. Will you marry me? For real this time?" Emotion surged in Emily's chest. She laughed through teary eyes, giving a slightly trembling nod. "I'd be crazy not to." They married in a small, intimate ceremony, none of the overwhelming glam. Just family and a few close friends. Catherine Steele welcomed Emily with genuine warmth. Daniel teased that he'd known from day one they'd end up together, and as for Vanessa, she never received an invitation. In a swirl of laughter and heartfelt vows, they began a life built on sincerity and perseverance, far removed from the business-like arrangement that had once defined their meeting. Because sometimes the best things bloom from the most unlikely contracts and become far more valuable than any deal signed on paper. So what do you think? Would you hire a stranger to be your wedding date? Did Nathan and Emily's story surprise you? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more uplifting narratives like this. Thank you for reading. Let this be a reminder that sometimes a spontaneous, even transactional decision can lead to the most genuine kind of love, and that behind every chance encounter, there might be a new beginning waiting to unfold. Millionaire CEO needed a date for a wedding. He never thought he'd end up falling for her. So what do you think?